This is a HeadGum podcast.
Fake the Nation, episode 452.
Hello, this is Fake the Nation, where we talk about news, we talk about culture, and where we learn from Meghan Markle how to collect honey from bees that are, on our private estates that we all have. I am your host, Negin Farsad, and the Meghan Markle show is using edible flowers on Netflix, so you don't have to. Today, we won't talk about that show, although I think there's some listeners out there that definitely want us to talk about that show. Maybe it is coming. But instead, we're going to talk about how your feelings get hurt when a celebrity loses weight. We'll also talk about how swearing is linked to pain tolerance. We'll dip into politics with some tariff talk. With some fucking Tesla talk. Sorry, I already started swearing because it's linked to pain tolerance. And we'll also talk about the Fyre Festival and, who's getting tickets to this surefire stable event. Today's panel, oh, what a lovely panel. There's some new bangs on one of our panelists. There's some really riveting lipstick. This is all just more reason to just check in on the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe because you want to see the faces of some of these gorgeous people that we have on. Is it a show for just lovely faces, or do they also have brains to go with that beauty? Folks, they're doing a twofer. We have with us stand-up comedian I was at her last album taping, and it was one of the most fun nights of comedy that I've had in years. So you should look up her albums. You should go to her weekly show at QED. You should go to her monthly show here in the wonderful borough of Manhattan. It is the incomparable Katie Compa. Hey, Katie.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God. So excited that you're here. And also, I am so excited for this next panelist. She is a relationship coach, and every time she's on the show, I think to myself, should me and my husband be going to I'm lured by her mere energy for being a relationship coach. She's also the author of the upcoming rom-com novel called Save the Date, which I cannot wait to read because, as listeners know, I'm always asking for a page turner of a book, and I know that this panelist will provide. It is the excellent Allison Raskin. Hey, Allison.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And folks, I just want to remind listeners that they can go to patreon.com/Negin Farsad, because that's where we have some bonuses for subscribers. We have some of the more I want to say electric conversations in the bonus episodes. You get, for as little as $4 a month, you get 2 bonus episodes of the show. For as little as $5, you get 3 bonus episodes. And there's levels after that. This week, we're talking about what your outfit tells your therapist. Folks, it's a whole thing. Did you know that your outfit is communicating a whole set of things to your therapist? You probably do know, and you're probably stressed out about what you wear to your therapist. This is something we're going to discuss. We're also going to talk about moderate drinking, what it actually means, and where all the countries stand, and what are we doing. So point is, there's so many wonderful conversations. They get doled out throughout the month, and they're so fun. So go to patreon.com/Negin Farsad. Thank you, everyone who already does that. You guys are so delightful. All right, let's get into it with topic number 1. If you feel some kind of zen when you say the words fuck and shit, these are words that obviously follow naturally anytime a president, or let's say an unelected billionaire installed in government says anything. But now apparently a new study finds that the reason you feel better is because swear words are shown to help ease pain. What? According to the research, one of the researchers that we read about, it's, quote, a drug-free, calorie-neutral, cost-free means of self-help. Katie Compa, does this speak to you at all?
So much, and in so much redacted terms. Yes, I live alone, and I swear out loud to myself multiple times a day about various and sundry things. Did I forget to take the trash out? Well, F word. Did I stub my toe? I do that 5 times a day. Yes. Again, F word is my go-to. It definitely works the best for me.
Apparently, you are not alone. F word is the common go-to according to the researchers. I can't believe there's actual research on this. I love it. Allison, does this speak to you?
Honestly, this was some of the best news I've read in months, if not years. I grew up with a mother who was very pro cursing. She taught me everything I know. She always was like, it's just words. Obviously she was like, don't do it at school. Be aware of your surroundings. But she always really leaned into it and had such a potty mouth. And so she passed away in the fall. And I just this is one of those moments where I was like, oh, Mom, I wish I could send you this article.
You were medically speaking ahead of your time, Mom.
Truly.
Oh my God. The other crazy thing about it is that swearing is linked to social, improving your social bonds. It's linked to improved memory. It apparently alleviates the social pain of exclusion or rejection. Although rejection thing totally makes sense because I feel like I swear a shit. When I had been dumped or something, swearing was a big part of my recovery. Apparently the
to friends or to yourself.
Mostly I want to say at brunch tables across the city. Yeah, there was a lot of swearing that happened at those brunch tables. And then apparently it sort of makes sense because the neurological pathways by which we experience actual pain are the same pathways by which we experience emotional pain. So if one is, going to help actual, emotional pain, it'll also help physical pain. So it kind of makes sense that swearing works in both cases. I love that your mom swore at home, Alice, because I have a child and I want to, look, she's 6. So I speak to her in Farsi mostly. It doesn't come, it's not always an issue. But sometimes, obviously, I speak to her dad, her dumb dad who only speaks English. I know he's brilliant, but we like to make fun of him for being monolingual. But I do speak to him, and then sometimes I'll just forget that she's in the room, and I'll just drop a swear word. I'm like, fuck, and my reaction to having dropped a swear word is a swear word, and I feel I want to create a world where, that world where I'm listen, I swear that's just a part of me as a human being since for so long. And I don't want to change it because of you. I just want you to know, don't do it to other around, anyone else.
Yeah, I love the messaging that they're just words, right? I feel some people grow up with that they're evil or that it means you're a bad person or something. And as creatives, words are they are magic. They're so important to us. And so it was really awesome that she was they're just words, but you do have to be aware of your surroundings because other people have different opinions about these words.
Yeah, Katie, did you grow up in a no swear word household?
I don't know if it was a part of my mom swore like a sailor, but I definitely imposed standards on myself where I was if people swear, something bad should happen to them. I don't know where I was getting. I think I read the Little House books a little too much, and I was felt very superior to people, I think. And it was something I had to grow out of. But I will tell you, when I had to submit my album, you have to mark which tracks are clean, and there are I think 19 tracks on the album. I could mark one of them as clean because and it wasn't anything it wasn't the topics. It was that I dropped F-bombs just without thinking in every single joke. So,
right. And I
am glad I grew out of it. I feel better. I feel like a more well-rounded person.
By the way, Allison, you said they're just words, but they're just words and they're just medicine, straight up. According to the research, motherfuckers, they're fucking medicine. Here we go. Let's move on to another aspect of culture. There's a piece in Glamour magazine that talked about the phenomenon of feeling betrayed when celebrities lose weight. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Selena Gomez took the red carpet during award season and she had lost a bunch of weight. Did you feel betrayed by her? And if she's not your person, is there a celebrity whose weight loss may have affected you?
I think that my issue is only when a person's entire brand is around body positivity, because I totally understand the impact of fat phobia in our world. I understand how difficult it is to be in the public eye, but I do think that some people have really built themselves up like as a face of body positivity. And so then when they lose weight and they don't like address what changed or like why this happened, then I do think that like those fans, I totally understand like feeling some serious disappointment. But, you know, ultimately we're all individuals, whether or not you're in the public eye, and you have to do what's right for you. But I do think there has to like be an ongoing conversation about it if that's something you are historically known for talking about.
Katie, where are you at on this?
Selena Gomez, I hadn't been paying attention to her weight at all. She looks the same as she's ever looked to me. But you know, I guess Adele is like my most recent example of somebody that
Some
dropped
people
a ton
are
of
like,
weight,
I
and it
don't
was
see.
kinda like,
Some people are like, I don't see color, and Katie's like, I don't see weight loss. I just don't see it.
no. I just don't pay close enough attention to Selena Gomez.
It's
personal to her. Like
She just doesn't see Selena Gomez.
Yeah, right.
yeah, exactly. I have face blindness only for Selena Gomez. But also, you know, I read in the article that in Glamour that she has lupus, and it's definitely something that if we're going to be talking about people's weight, lupus makes your weight fluctuate insanely. So, you know, and I think being a celebrity now is harder than it's ever been because there are just eyes on you all the time because of social media and people taking like sneaky pictures and selfies. And then you have to go to the red carpet. And it used to be kind of an isolated event to have all those eyes on you. But now it's all the time.
All the time.
So I think like Adele and Lizzo are the two and Lizzo, I think, definitely fits that bill of like body positivity and then lost weight. But it's not like she's, you know, I don't think she went on Ozempic. Like I think she just lost a little bit of weight. She's still like a normal size. But I think it is the loss of the feeling of relatability to a celebrity where like if they can do it with their body, maybe I can do it with mine. And then when their bodies change, it feels like that possibility gets taken away.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting
But
that
it's something
Selena...
that we put on them. you know?
Right. And I think it's interesting that Selena Gomez was even like mentioned in this article because I think she's, to me, has always read as like kind of thinnish. I mean, I don't know. I guess I never really thought about it. Yeah, like you, Katie, I never thought about her weight as being one way or the other. But someone like Adele or Lizzo, they definitely had like more of an identification with their like body size. And it's interesting because there's something about all of this to me. I'm like, can't stop being the daughter of a cardiovascular and thoracic surgeon because whenever my dad would see a person, it's just like he's such a doctor, he can't help it. But it's like he would see someone like Lizzo and be like, someone should be monitoring her because that level of body fat is an indication of like early onset heart disease or whatever. And he would always just like casually throw out medical diagnosis on someone based on their weight, right? And as a doctor, like that's how he saw the world. And so it's interesting, or like, you know, if he saw someone drinking too much or whatever, you know what I mean? Like he would just be like, oh, these are like, there could be a medical impact there. And so I'm sort of like,
it's also partly generational. Like my mom cannot keep her mouth shut about people's weight, you know, even when I'm like, we don't do that. Like
anymore.
And she works in public health too. So there's like a health angle to it where it's like, it's costing the medical system, you know, it's like, all right, well, people are born with the body that they're born with. And the more we learn about dieting and diet culture, it's like there is only so much you can do to work around what you were dealt in terms of genetics.
So like for celebrities, they have access to trainers, the best food that exists, Ozempic, like who knows what else, like that they might have the access and ability to be so hyper-focused on their weight loss with all of these added supports that then it makes it seem like, well, why haven't you lost the weight? Like, why haven't, you know, like why, if she can do it, why can't you do it? And it's like, well, because I don't have a personal trainer 7 times a week and I can't afford Ozempic. And I'm also like not really that interested in building my entire life around weight loss and being a weight that's not natural to my body. And so I think that's where the parts become tricky around it. It makes it seem easy.
Yeah, I think that brings up an excellent point that also was not in the article. But Allison, that's an excellent point because I think it all comes back down to income inequality. You know what I mean? It's just like if you don't have as much money as someone that you're a fan of, and they do this thing, and and their life is sort of aspirational to you, you start building this whole you start feeling like, why can't I do that? Well, you can't do that because they're able to subsidize, the how difficult it is with money with resources, and we're like, and an average person is unable to do that. So it just is like, okay, well, I'm sorry, I guess you're not rich enough to be that skinny. You know what I mean? It's like
so
there's
when
that
people
whole
tell
other
you
thing
that you have the same 24 hours in a day as Beyonce, and it's like, okay, we have the same 24 hours, but she has, I don't know, 80 people whose 24 hours are devoted to her. So please don't compare me to Beyonce, okay? Like I'm paying my own rent, and that's about all I can handle right now.
Yeah. No, exactly. All right, folks, I'm so curious. What do you think of all of this stuff? So let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll get into shitty people doing shitty things. And we are back, and we are, let us get into topic number 2, shitty people doing shitty things. So the tariff news has been hard to track because I am but one person. If I had actually Beyonce's staff, I think I'd have an easier time of tracking tariff news in particular, just this one tranche of news. Now, there were tariffs on Mexico and Canada, and then the next minute there was like an automobile manufacturing exemption, and the next minute there was a postponement, and then the next minute the new Canadian leader who was just elected is talking a big game in making whatever like hockey references about Canadian strength. And then the premier of Ontario, a province in Canada for most Americans who don't know, is setting their own tariffs on energy exports that will affect 1.5 million Americans. And then just as we stepped into this recording, there was breaking news that Trump is escalating shit by saying he would do double steel and aluminum tariffs. And then he repeated the dumb thing about Canada being the 51st state. And oh my God, it's so annoying. And it's led to crazy stock market drops. It could lead to crazy price fluctuations and even a recession. What does this all mean to you two representing the average comedian / novelist?
My guiding principle is that I don't want to have to pay attention to this shit, and I mean, I don't know what paying attention to it is accomplishing if it's going to change every 2 days. I'm guilty of doomerism. I'm like, I guess this is, I saw a meme. I judge people a lot for getting their information from memes, but where am I getting my information? Largely memes. But there was one this morning about like what led up to the Great Depression, and it was all the same stuff that happened in this last 2 weeks. So I'm like, cool, great. We're going to have a Great Depression. I guess I need to like brush up on my tradwife skills and start like an indoor garden and get some bird flu free chickens and, I guess move to the country. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I hope there's still public transportation when I decide to move to the country, but because I don't have a car.
I think it's just really upsetting. Like and I feel like so many of the American people were duped, like everyone said he got elected to save the economy and he's tanking the economy. And the level of like, just sort of like irony and hypocrisy around what is happening is also just like infuriating. And it's really difficult to like feel safe. Obviously like I'm someone that has like immense privilege. And so I'm not going to be affected the way other people will be. But I think all of us feel, or at least those of us that are paying attention and aren't, loyalists, no matter what he says / cult members, there's so much uncertainty about what this is going to bring. There's so much uncertainty about what life will look like in a few years. And so my whole thing is like, we have to just like be taking care of ourselves and each other during this time, like, to like show up for our community, show up for ourselves, and then also like be a little strategic with our money and planning and saving and what we want to have in the market, what we don't, what are our priorities. Because unfortunately, I think we're going to enter a time that's like going to be really painful for a lot of people.
Do you, that's like, are you, Katie, like, gonna be smart about money? Are you?
No, I
Are you
can't
gonna
suddenly get money
say-
skills that I've never been able to develop over the course of my entire life. No, I'm going to get hit by this for sure. I'm not going to walk away from this unscathed. I do have the cold comfort of knowing that I wasn't duped because I knew this was going to happen. But it's again, cold comfort. I don't feel any better just because
Well, but also what of
a
the,
bunch
you
of
know,
people who voted for it are going to go below the poverty line.
But in the same way that we can't compare ourselves to the resources that a very wealthy celebrity has, we can't control some of the ways in which we're being duped, right? Like, or some of the, you know, scammed. Because, for example, I can't if my energy bill goes up on average $70 because of the tariff that the Ontario province premier put on the energy exports that affect New York State, Minnesota, and some other place I can't remember. That's not something I can, you know what I mean? And like, that's $70 a month is a lot of money for an average person to like suddenly have that go into their budget. That means they're getting rid of Netflix and like 2 other ones. And
At least.
Right? I mean, and so there's like ways where you're like, I can't even, and then you're like, is that fucking tariff gonna happen? Is it not gonna happen? Like, you know.
And if people who get even a minor heads up about whether a tariff is going to go into effect or out of effect, they have a heads up to pull money out of the stock market or put it back in. So it's just free money for people who have an inside line. And then there's also this other cryptocurrency fund that is, you know, we're so screwed. Is like that's where I just like can't. I get overloaded with information and then I'm like, we're screwed. And I just walk away.
And you know,
on my Netflix.
And by the way, I mean, it's just crazy because like the Make America Affordable Again, wasn't that one of the lines? Is been so jettisoned. It's wild. The New York Fed does a survey of consumer expectations, and the February one just came out. And basically the households who expressed pessimism in their financial future increased. In the households expecting a worse financial situation rose to 27.4%. The highest level since November 2023, when we were sort of like starting the recovery from the pandemic. I also just want to point out about tariffs. What's really frustrating about them is that they were like a very popular economic tool in the 19th century. So like they don't.
Right
That's
before
so
the
much of
Great
his
Depression.
approach. His approach is
I mean, it's
based off a
so-
world that doesn't exist anymore.
doesn't exist anymore. And the funny thing about the protectionism of the 18th century and the 19th century and early 20th century is that it, you know, led to global conflicts and there were huge economic repercussions. So, you know, for example, the conflict that we're seeing now, a micro conflict where like the premier of Ontario is like, you know, puffing up his chest and then doing another tariff, a retaliatory tariff. That is the kind of beginnings of conflict, right? That we saw in the tariff use of the 19th century, which is one of the reasons they were abandoned as an economic tool. And so it's a fucking, can one of the guys who like routinely bows to him but also he listens to or whatever, like get in there and set him straight on the use of terror? Why did he become so obsessed? It's like he learned this one word. And anyway, it's weird. Let me change gears really quickly to talk about Mahmoud Khalil. He was a green card holding Columbia University graduate and pro-Palestinian activist. And he was arrested for having done the pro-Palestinian activism on the Columbia University campus. He's detained now in like Louisiana. And a court order has stopped him from being totally deported. Now, this is really like alarming to me personally. As someone who knows green card holders.
One of the most worrying thing that's happened in the whole administration.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's horrifying.
So, yeah, Allison, tell us your piece on this.
As a Jewish person, it's just so baffling to me that there are people that don't see what a red flag this is, right? That like, I think that this conflict is so unlike any other conflict that people aren't necessarily thinking the way they would otherwise. Like, you know, like people like normally liberal and democratic people's approach to things are kind of different when it comes to Israel. And so this feels almost like the way in for the Trump administration. Like this feels like the one thing he could get away with doing first, you know, to deport someone for pro-Palestinian protests, where if like he had tried to deport someone for protesting abortion or protesting BLM, I feel like there would be like a more cohesive movement against it. And so that is like really, really frightening to me. And it also just feels like such a slippery slope. You can't deport people who have not especially with a green card, who haven't committed crimes. It's like such an attack on free speech. Yeah. It is.
A green card is supposed to offer the same protections as citizenship, essentially. Yeah. Like you get the First Amendment, you get to do all of that. And it is a route, you know, to then citizenship. So it's very, very,
But if they can do it to a green card holder, they can do it to a citizen. I think it's just like a step on that road towards being able to
absolutely
all of us for exercising.
But people are just sort of like, I don't know, some people are just like, they can't follow the thread of what this means.
Well, because there's too much tariff news, you know what I mean, to follow the thread of what anything means. And it's funny because even just like, and I know panelists from the last several weeks can attest to this, and you guys can attest to this. I usually don't have to send an email like right before showtime to be like, oh, by the way, we're going to change that subject to this subject because fucking the news cycle. But like, that's what I keep having to do. Like, it's hard to figure out what is the news. And again, so it makes actions like this, you know, it just kind of sail through. Thankfully, a judge is involved, and you know, he's not being deported, but it doesn't mean he's not like being detained. It's like horrible. Let's shift gears. So that's horrible. Let us shift gears quickly to Tesla's drop in stock. Now, I think this is really. I mean, I feel like we've been predicting that this on the show for like several weeks now. But basically the stock dropped 15.4%, a decline that erased over $800 billion in market value for Tesla. There's protests in front of like Tesla showrooms. There's vandalism. I mean, there's the Europeans are doing it. It's like all over the place. Does this change things for Elon, do you think?
Yes. And even if it's just ego, yes, which might be the most important change that we can effect, you know? Mm-hmm. I saw like a very small clip of him on Fox News yesterday where he was basically just like, like he's very worried. He's very worried.
Yeah, I think it was like that interview. Yeah, he did a Fox News interview, and the guy was like, "Is it hard to run your companies or something?" And that's when he had that like weird pause, and he couldn't handle it. And there was a moment where you're like, "Oh, is this guy gonna crumble into ashes right now, like in front of our face?" Allison, do you feel like is this maybe the beginning of the end of Elon and Doge, or? I just can't tell if he's a dig in your heels kind of guy when market valuation drops by $800 billion. Like, what is $800 million? What's that like?
I think that what's difficult is that we're trying to assess these people based on them having a rational mind. And I don't think that Trump or Elon has a rational mind. I think that I'll go so far as to say I think that ketamine has really changed Elon's brain in some pretty significant and scary ways. Like the way that he behaves now versus a few years ago is rather shocking. And so you can't predict unpredictable people. One of the things that's been most alarming to me is that I feel like Trump is less cued into the stock market than you think that he would be. Like, he seems to be sort of, at least for right now, willing to like take the hit and ride the downfall. I mean, part of that might be because a lot of people that voted for him might not even be invested in the stock market. Not to say that their pensions and 401ks aren't, but that they're not personal, they're not like following the market the way that other people are. And so it's been really scary to me that Trump doesn't seem to be as reactionary to the stock market as he's historically been. But Elon, I hope, I don't know. Like, I think that there is some stuff going on in their psyche that is like rather very alarming and volatile and emotionally immature. And so will this like kick him in the butt, or will he, just start to go into sort of his that mode of being persecuted, right? That what's happening at Tesla is unfair. They're after him. He hasn't done anything wrong. It's that there's some grand conspiracy that's caused the stocks to drop. And so when that happens, it's like, who knows what someone's going to do.
Well, again, I've said this before, but if I'm on Tesla's board, I'm like, dude, can you not just moonlight as if with 5 other jobs? Like, this is the job that you're getting paid billions of dollars to do, and you're not doing
on the
job.
Other hand, wouldn't you be glad to not have him around making decisions, making like ketamine-addled decisions? I feel like we'll get an acting CEO. Go do your thing with Doge. It's gonna go great, buddy.
Oh man.
And I think Trump is like, he has dementia. Like, the media were so obsessed with Biden's age and cognitive decline, and we just say nothing about Trump. And I think that is part of he used to be obsessed with the stock market, and now I just don't think he can like retain the information. Also, it's also like, is it dementia or is it Putin? Because obviously Putin wants our economy to crash. That'll be great for him. So,
right.
There's so many possibilities. If I were a tailor who made imaginary clothes, seems like a good time to come to town and start selling them, To the empire.
All right, folks. I think my closing thought here is to actually call your reps. I've been having this conversation with a lot of people. When I was an intern at various Senate and congressional offices, the phone calls were logged. The sentiment of a district was monitored. So I think call your reps. They're voting on shutting down the government. Should your Democrat vote to shut it down? I mean, I think they will. And but it's possible that there's a narrow majority. They have like one or two. Three votes that they can lose.
I think they need 8 Democrats to pass
in the Senate
the continuing resolution.
Well, with the filibuster,
in the Senate, right?
So I mean, I think it's going to pass the House no matter what. But
right. So let's see. So I don't know. Now's the time to make your calls. Do what you got to do, and I think making calls actually does feel better because it's it's more proactive, but it's also a really easy lift. How
do you feel about calls versus emails? Because I use the resist bot a lot.
Yeah, like when I was a youngin' when I was in those offices, and so I don't feel like I have a gauge for how well those things are taken in. But my just on off the record reporting on this is that phone calls end up making a tiny bit more of a difference. But again, don't take my word for it because I can't say for sure. I think it's office dependent. But I think if something feels even just that much easier, it's probably not gonna, it's like me reading data, it's just not as, I think, effective because literally a human being answers the phone and then they're
not always
at, and then the off and then not always and sometimes honestly the phone lines are busy because they're getting too many calls and then but oftentimes, I mean, in just the few offices that I interned in, like literally a human being took the call, and then there would be an annoyance if an issue was blocking everything up on the phone lines, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, take that for literally a grain of salt. I'm not an expert, but there you go. All right, let us move on to our last topic number 3. Fyre Festival is back. Last time it was a disaster, and it led to multiple documentaries about the level of that disaster. And yeah, Billy McFarlane, who launched the festival, went to prison. But you guys, he's back, and this time he's got an ankle monitor, and he thinks he can really make Fyre Festival happen. He's announced it. There's one act that is signed on. Is this a heartwarming story of redemption, or is this just, a second chance for another failure?
The latter. Yes.
Like, I laughed so hard at the article you sent where it says days after Mexican officials suggested that Fyre Festival 2 is, quote, an event that does not exist. Just that, way to be burned by, Mexican officials. Just your event does not exist, sir.
And the map coordinates are between the mainland Mexico and the actual island where they're saying are they gonna build a flotilla? What is the plan? I mean, I don't know where they would get the idea that a fraudster could come back and have a second chance at defrauding people in this country. But God bless those people who are willing to part with hard-earned money and risking the skies in the current FAA environment to go to Fyre Festival 2.
Right, because I feel like the only people that would want to waste the money are people who have a lot of money to waste and just would go for novelty reasons. I don't know,
or content reasons. I imagine there'll be some content creators, influencers going to even if it goes badly, just to document what it is, maybe.
Right. Yeah, just documentarians looking for a sequel. I can see them going. So then it's just like an island of people that have cameras trained on each other. I can't see.
Sounds like a Shirley Jackson short story.
Yeah, I can't see. By the way, the first act officially booked is NFL star Antonio Brown. I'm not terribly familiar with his oeuvre, but he's a rapper. He had one minor hit, and so he's posted a social media thing I'm gonna be there, you should come, whatever. And apparently there's some other acts that are booked, and apparently
multiple other acts. That's what multiple other acts. Okay, sounds like headliners.
People are saying, Katie. People are saying.
Many people.
And then apparently there's those acts have also agreed to do shark watching expeditions or whatever. So it'll be it's Adele will be there, and then she'll take you on a little shark excursion, and I'm sure the funding is there for the names that they want to attract.
This feels like the most important example of fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. I can't have empathy for anyone that goes to this.
If he had partnered with legitimate people and was oh, this will be a great redemption story, and then I don't know, I think there's a way that maybe this could have worked, but the way that it's currently happening, where Mexican officials are denying that they've been they're saying we've never even heard of it, is not the way. It's he needs Beyonce's team to be there helping him actually make it happen. Otherwise,
and Beyonce.
And he really needs to book her. Otherwise, there are some names that I think, okay, if they said yes, this would absolutely happen, she being one of them. But I don't know that Antonio Brown has the star power to override the incredible disaster that the first Fyre Festival was for the viewing public. So
I hope not, for their sake.
Yeah, I hope not. Folks, let me know. Are you buying tickets to Fyre Festival? There must be one person in Fake the Nation who's gonna do this. I don't know. I'm curious. Maybe not. You're also reasonable and delightful and lovely. So maybe you're just nah, this is not for you at all. All right, my friends, that is the end of the show. You two are so fun and so delightful. As I said you would be, you delivered. And what I would love is for the people of Fake the Nation to be able to follow you and all the wonderful things that you do. Katie Compa, where do they do that?
I am at Katie Compa on all of the platforms that I am on. Blue Sky, Instagram. I'm still on Twitter just for Schadenfreude mostly. So any of the big ones, that's where you can find me. And my album is called Hard Pass. It's on all the streaming platforms.
I'm also on Twitter, and it's funny because then when I log on, I'm like, what am I doing here? Like it just like doesn't have any, it just feels like it's 3:30 a.m. at a party that ended at 2 a.m. And so you're just like, I guess why I'm still here is so weird.
I'm on for the menswear guy. I go straight to his page. I see who he's burning, and then I usually
I love that guy.
Allison, where do the people find you?
You can find me at Allison Raskin on Instagram and Twitter. You can also go to my website, AllisonRaskin.com, for all my various projects. And then I would really love if people pre-ordered my new novel, Save the Date, which is a like fun, lighthearted rom-com that explores like love, marriage, and anxiety.
Allison, is there an audiobook version?
Yes, and I actually read it. So you can
great.
hear
Okay.
me. You can hear me doing a variety of characters.
Awesome.
Oh, this is so exciting. I can't wait. Folks, you know where to find me and all the things that I do. If you happen to be going to the TED convention in Vancouver, I will be there. Look me up. I would love to say hello. Also, you can see me at Wait, Don't Tell Me in early April. And there's more dates coming. And I would like to thank everyone who makes the show a possibility. That's our wonderful producer, Andrew McGuire. Thanks to everyone at HeadGum. Thanks to Gaby Alter for our theme music. If you have any questions, concerns, ideas, you can email us at fakethenationpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget, patreon.com/Negin Farsad. Oh, are we still doing the survey? We might still be doing the survey, in which case you should go to gumball.fm/fakethenation so you can let us know your preferences. We're trying to make the show a better experience for everybody, and that survey takes like literally less than a minute. It's so easy and very non-invasive. So go to gumball.fm/fakethenation, and otherwise we'll be back in your earballs next week.
That was a HeadGum podcast.